Joe Kleen, Southern Hospitality, February 9th, 1993. The plane's intercom system announced, "Flight attendants, please prepare for landing," and Joe cinched his seatbelt just a smidgen tighter. "Are you heading to Bermuda or staying in Miami?" he asked Julia. "Neither, actually. I'm going to St. Croix to meet up with some old friends from the University of Toronto, architects and their wives. We used to get together every year, but I'm afraid we've fallen off of late, and some aren't doing so well." "I'm sorry to hear that," he replied before performing a final Valsalva to clear his ears, folded his hands, closed his eyes, and silently ran through a litany of prayers as the plane touched down, reversed thrust, and quickly slowed. The intercom reminded everyone to remain seated with seatbelts fastened, and based on the scarcity of clicks emitted from seatbelts, most of the passengers adhered to the injunction. As the plane stopped, Misty removed her belt and stood while Joe slid over to the aisle seat in preparation of departure. "I'll lay your bag on the seat?" he asked. "That would be marvelous," Julie responded. "I hope you have a lovely holiday with your brothers." "Thanks, you too," Joe replied, standing, opening the overhead bin and placing Julia's bag on the outer seat. Misty nodded a goodbye, Julia smiled a thank you, and the Kleens shuffled out of the aircraft and then walked briskly up the gangway. At the top, a woman with child in arms and 4-year-old at feet effectively blocked the exit gate as they awaited whomever it was that they were so anxious to see. The departure board had been placed in a location that ensured that it would create a bottleneck whenever a plane landed, and Joe and Misty threaded their way through the throng to get a clearer view of the departure listings. The Kleens had deplaned at gate D48, and the St. Kitts flight was departing from D11. Even though the Kleens would not be leaving Concourse D, the distance from 11 to 48 was appreciable, and the moving slidewalks came in handy. As they approached their gate, Joe tapped Misty on the shoulder and nodded his head toward Phil and Justin, who were enraptured in conversation. Joe looked around for Kelsey and Courtney, but found neither. He then sat behind Justin, bumped his head intentionally, and sporting a big grin declared, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I saw you there." "Joey!" Justin declared, springing up from his seat. "How are yez?" "Good, good," Joe replied, standing and making his way to his brothers. "How are you?" he asked as they embraced. "Great. It's really good to get away from work. It's unbelievable how much prep work there is to do for a landscape company in the winter. I figured one more month and then we'll be hitting it hard." "Misty, looking great as always. How are you?" he asked, throwing his arms around his sister-in-law. "Good. I'm really good. It's great to see you. I haven't seen you since, Christmas last year or 88, whatever you call it. Way too long in any case. You look good too. Where's Kels?" "They went to find a bathroom," Phil interjected, kissing Misty's cheek and wrapping his brother in a bear hug. "It has been a while, hasn't it? I guess that's what happens when we move away from the nest." "Yeah, tell me about it," Joe replied. "How's the CIA treating you? Still checking for OSHA violations?" "I'm not allowed to talk about it," Phil deadpanned. "If I told you, I'd have to kill you." "Yeah, it's still good, but the travel's getting old, especially with Court traveling so much too. And of course, I don't go to the posh spots like she does. Word of advice, try not to use the airplane toilet when flying in or out of India. Believe me."